Greetings, champions of change. Welcome to Rise Africa channel, your daily source for engaging discussions on African business, politics, technology, and all the trending topics that matter. Stay tuned, because we're about to take a look at Africa's dynamic continent from every viewpoint. Subscribe now, and let's explore these fascinating topics together. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's advocacy for the African Union to join the G20 is a significant step toward a more representative global debate. This landmark development, accomplished during India's G20 leadership, is the first expansion of the important group since its inception in 1999. All member countries agreed to Prime Minister Modi's proposal, highlighting the growing relevance of the African Union. It demonstrates the AU's potential to make significant contributions to the debates and choices that influence the policies of the world's leading economies. When African countries have tried to join various international organizations, they have often been met with resistance. Despite this, Africa has several strengths, such as a large pool of human resources, a highly educated population, and an indomitable spirit. Because of these strengths, Africa can hold its own in negotiations without relying entirely on foreign aid. Africa is a desirable location for multinational corporations because it is home to one of the world's largest labor forces. As a result, Africa can finally stand up for itself and negotiate for fair compensation. This change towards a more equal and balanced partnership is a step in the right direction for Africa's economic progress and freedom. It's a change from past inequities, and it gives African countries a chance to shape the international economy as full participants. The presence of many regional blocs like IGAD, ECOWAS, SADC, COMESA, and EAC makes the problems that the African Union is confronting even more complicated. The rules, regulations, and laws of these regional blocs are not always compatible with the AU's structure. The diversity of Africa's legal systems poses a threat to the continent's development and cohesion. The only way for Africa to make real progress is if these regional blocs and the AU collaborate to harmonize and secure alignment of their legal systems. When negotiating with non-African parties, African nations should do so within a framework that takes into account the continent as a whole. This would allow any problems or disagreements that may arise from these agreements to be treated as an African issue and resolved as such, to eliminate the fragmentation of policies and regulations that can hamper growth. There must be a concerted effort to streamline legal frameworks and strengthen collaboration across regional blocs and the AU. The continent's problems, from political conflicts to economic progress, will be met with a more cohesive and efficient strategy thanks to this harmonization. In the end, this concerted action will improve Africa's ability to act as a unified force on the world stage, allowing it to better promote its interests and handle its concerns. The African Union ineffectiveness lack responding to crises on the continent is on full display in the current situation in Sudan. The African Union, AU, has always struggled to effectively respond to crises all around the continent. The AU has often failed to effectively intervene in conflicts across the continent, including in Somalia, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Mali, Ethiopia, the Central African Republic, and the 1994 Rwandan genocide. We have seen ceasefires fail even in the case of Sudan, where international organizations are trying to broker peace. Internal strife and regional power struggles, the AU Commission are contributing factors to the organization's ineffectiveness. Due to internal strife, the organization has been unable to effectively mediate crises in Sudan and elsewhere. Further complicating matters is the involvement of some member countries in the conflict in Sudan. The African Union has seen its authority and unity weakened by internal disputes and power battles, putting its role as a peacemaker in Africa in jeopardy. If these problems aren't fixed, Sudan might join the other nations in the area that have weak governments, where militias have too much power, and where terrorism and insurgency are constant dangers. In an ideal world, the African Union would lead the continent to growth, stability, and progress. Unfortunately, it frequently seems like a club for elderly leaders who exploit Africa's rich resources at the expense of the continent's poor. Many young Africans risk perilous voyages to Europe in quest of better chances, because of the African Union unfit and sometimes corrupt leadership. They're trying to get away from problems like poverty, unemployment, corruption, and human rights abuses back home. Many African countries are ruled by tyrants regimes whose leaders use constitutional loopholes to stay in power indefinitely. The African Union's catchphrases, such as African solutions to African problems, sounds untrue. Notably, no UN missions in Africa are financed by African Union or operated. Rather, they are supported by global taxpayers in accordance with UN Security Council resolutions. Due to financial constraints, China built the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa. It is crucial to evaluate the AU as a whole, including its achievements and shortcomings. Civil wars, military coups, one-man rule, and global warming are only some of the modern threats that require the organization to act. In my opinion, the African Union has failed to live up to its promise and has instead exacerbated conflicts and human misery across the continent. Millions of people have become refugees, displaced inside their own countries, or lost their lives trying to escape violence because of the African Union ineffective leadership. Refugees, IDPs, and those who drown at sea trying to escape violence would have the Africa Union and its leaders to blame if accountability mechanisms were in place. Africa will continue to face crises, posing financial, economic, and security difficulties for a long time, until meaningful efforts are taken to resolve structural flaws, governance problems, internal divides, and power struggles within the organization. The African Union joining the G20 raises a pivotal question. Is this a great win for Africa, signifying its growing influence on the global stage, or does it carry the risk of perpetuating neo-colonial dynamics in a modern context? On one hand, Africa's participation in the G20 can be seen as a remarkable achievement, providing the continent with a stronger voice in shaping global economic policies. It signifies progress and an opportunity for Africa to assert its interests and contribute meaningfully to international discussions. However, there is a concern that this inclusion might come with strings attached or reinforce power imbalances reminiscent of neocolonialism. It's essential to scrutinize the terms and conditions of Africa's participation and ensure that it truly benefits the continent rather than perpetuating historical inequalities. Join us on Rise Africa channel as we navigate these complex questions, seeking a balanced perspective on the African Union's entry into the G20 and its potential implications for the continent's future. If you find this content engaging and would like to stay updated on a daily basis, don't forget to subscribe. Your support fuels our exploration of Africa's evolving role on the global stage.